So one thing about backpacking and traveling is that it is not always butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes things go wrong, unexpected things happen, and you get humbled. So today I want to tell you guys about 10 times that I got humbled while traveling. Some of these are pretty freaking bad, so prepare yourself, trigger warning. Puke might be involved in some of them. Number one, this actually happened to me on this trip that I'm currently on, and that was the speedboat from Koh Tao to Koh Phangan, Thailand. So basically to get from one island to the next, you have to take a ferry, and I took the speedboat. It was 1 hour. I thought, okay, this is gonna be fine. It turns out that this day was really choppy, and this was the worst hour of my life. I knew that things were gonna go bad when we started moving and the workers were handing out little bags. And I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, come on. I've never actually thrown up from motion sickness before. But oh my God, I was way wrong. We start going and like I said, the water's choppy. So the boat is literally going like this over the waves and your stomach is just dropping. All around me start throwing up, okay? And by this point, a few minutes in, I was like, oh no, this could be bad. So there's people literally all around me throwing up. I'm like sweating like crazy and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And then I start bawling my eyes out because it was so uncomfortable and I was fighting the urge to yak everywhere. I'm literally crying. I'm literally sitting in my seat crying, like almost having like hyperventilating. Like it was so bad, you guys. Probably around like the 30-40 minute mark, I thought I was going strong. I thought I had it under control, just sitting there trying to focus, but then it just, the sounds of this one person throwing up threw me over the edge, and then I grabbed my bag and I did it, you guys. And it was so humbling because I'm sitting directly beside this random guy, okay, and I like sitting there throwing up, and then I had to like hold the bag a bit after, and he's like giving me a Kleenex, like trying to help me, being like, hey, like, do you want me to like walk you to the back of the boat? My knees were so weak, like I tried to stand up to go sit at the back of the boat and I could not. I just had no choice but to literally just stay seated there. When we arrived, I'm telling you, I cried tears of joy. I was like, thank the Lord that this is over. Like I was so humbled in that moment because I was just like, oh my God, please give me the strength to get through this because it was terrible. So tip for you, if you are going to any of these islands out here in Southeast Asia, take a motion sickness pill before you get on the boat, and try to take slower boats than the speedboats, because the speedboats just go through the waves. It's crazy. And if you get a day where it's choppy, good luck. Number two, this also happened in Thailand, but I got really sick for like 5 days. I can only really describe this as like a really bad case of the flu. I still don't know what it was, but I was down for the count for like 5 days. So I ended up having to get a hotel for way longer than I wanted to. And each day I was just waking up hoping that everything would be better, but it wasn't. It actually got kind of worse. So I wasn't throwing up. Let's just say this, okay? The only symptom of this illness that I did not have was the fact that I was throwing up, but I had everything else, if you guys can imagine. I had a horrible fever. I was like so weak. I couldn't get out of bed. It was honestly so bad. And I was sitting there like, oh my God, do I want to go home? Like, I don't know if I can deal with this. If this keeps up, I'm gonna have to leave because it was like a really bad flu. It also sucked because the hotel that I was at, because there weren't a lot available in this city, was a bit far out from everything. So I couldn't just walk to a convenience store. I had to take a grab into kind of like the main city area. And so when I wanted food, because you gotta eat, I had to like grab Eats It, and I could like just barely eat anything. And it was just a really bad few days. Getting sick while you're traveling, especially when you're backpacking and you're solo, is straight up the worst because you are in like your weakest state. You just want to be at home with your mom to like make you soup or something like that, give you a tea, but you don't have anyone. You're just there, and I was down for the count for a few days and couldn't really do anything, so that really sucked. Number three is Europe. So taking the public buses in Europe with your giant backpack is really humbling because it's not as backpackery in like the big cities in Europe. So like when you're standing there with your humongous backpack on your back and you're just like standing on this public bus, you're gonna get a lot of stares. You know, I've been in situations where like people are literally just staring at me because it's like, what the hell am I doing? You know, they don't really get it. They're like, why do you, like, what are you doing? So it is a little bit humbling. It's also walking around some of the streets in Europe with all my stuff was a bit humbling because people just look at you and you can tell they're like, what is she doing? Number 4, you guys, we got another story, okay? This was also on this trip. This happened in Vietnam like a month ago. Getting food poisoning in Vietnam. Tragic. Let me just say that. So bad. I've never had food poisoning before until this very moment. I believe I got it from banh mi. Banh mi is just like a little panini sort of thing. It's like bread, like a little sandwich with meat, lettuce, whatever. About 6 hours after eating that banh mi, I started to feel really nauseous, but I was like, this is weird. Like, what's going on here? Why do I feel like this? I took a Pepto-Bismol. It didn't do anything because like about 20 minutes after that, I was running down from the top bunk of my bed in the hostel and running to the ensuite bathroom. Barely made it. Thank God that this hostel had private rooms available because from then on, I mean, you know what you can imagine what food poisoning is like, but I've never felt so weak in my life. I've never felt so just run down. It was straight up the worst. The next day I was supposed to take a bus to the next city. I had to cancel out on that. I had to take a different one the following day. And even that, like even 2 days later, I still could barely stomach food. Like I could barely eat anything. Yeah, it really did a number on my tummy. But I think when you're traveling Southeast Asia, you have to expect to get food poisoning at least once because your body's just not used to this food. And it can take a little bit to adjust, but even when you do adjust, you can still get food poisoning. So yes, not fun at all. Number 5 was my flight out here to Southeast Asia. I was quite humbled by this. So the flight to get here is very long. Well, there's 2 flights. So flight number 1, it was like 15 hours from Toronto to Seoul, South Korea. And then from there, South Korea to Bangkok was 6 hours. So I get on this plane, you know, I'm mentally prepared to be sitting on this plane for quite some time. So number 1, it was delayed by a couple hours, which meant I already knew I was going to be missing my connecting flight because that layover was like the same amount of time as the delay. So I was like, okay, this isn't gonna happen, but we move forward. So tell me why I get on the plane and I realize that I am sat directly in between a family who has 2 really annoying toddlers, I'm sorry, they were really annoying, and a literal tiny little baby who is like in diapers, and like this baby's just like on their lap. Why did I pick that seat? You know, you guys, because when check-in opens for a flight, you can pick whatever seat you want for free. Why did I have to pick that one? Out of all the seats I could have picked, I picked that one. Okay, they were pretty nice people, but they were changing the baby's diaper literally in the aisle, and I was like, side eye, what are you doing? Go to the bathroom. And one of the flight attendants even told them at one point, was like, that's really dirty, you can't do that here, you need to go to the bathroom for that. And then the toddlers were just like jumping all over the seats. Like it was quite, the flight was a bit more painful for those reasons. And then to make it kind of even worse, you know, after that flight's done, I missed the connection, so they put me on the next flight, which was 15 hours later. So they did put me in a hotel, free breakfast, free dinner. That was kind of nice, but it was not ideal. The trip of me getting out here was not smooth, but hey, that's what happens. That's what happens when you travel. You gotta just accept the things that go wrong with open arms. Be like, you know what? It is what it is, and we move on. Number 6, oh my God, you guys, we have another story, but this one's actually kind of funny. So this was when I was backpacking Costa Rica. So this was like over a year ago now. I was in my very first city, and I was like 3 nights in, okay? And on this one particular night, you know, I went a little bit hard, you know, was out at the bar, having fun. I had an 8 a.m. bus the next day to my next city. So at the end of the night, my friend and I, we decided to get this huge ass meal. It's like a deep fried burrito. It was so yummy, but way too much for my stomach. So I couldn't finish it, so I took the leftovers home back to the hostel. And it's like probably like 3 a.m. and I was like, I want these leftovers, so I'm eating it in my bed. And then I'm like, okay, bedtime. So I go to lay down. I just got the worst spins of my entire life. And I just sat up and immediately threw up on the ground right beside me in the hostel on the floor. I was like, oh my God. So luckily no one heard me. Like, it was very quiet. Like, I was really quiet with it. And I was like, oh my God. So I quickly cleaned it up. And then I was actually able to fall asleep after that. But unfortunately, I fell asleep a little too hard because I didn't wake up to my alarm. But I probably didn't even set it on. I probably forgot. And I wake up and it is the exact 8 o'clock, the time I'm supposed to be getting on this bus. And they're calling me, telling me that they're here. I was not ready to go. So I missed that bus, lost like $60 that way. Because I had to get the bus the next day. It was not great. Oh, and that's actually not the end of the story, because we were like, okay, you know what? Turns out I have another day in this city. Maybe I'll do something fun. So my friends and I, we decided to do a sunset, all-you-can-drink catamaran. Well, I guess it was hangover, it was motion sickness, I don't know what it was, but I was throwing up on that boat. It started off fun. We were drinking a little bit, being in the sun, and then all of a sudden it just hit me and I had to really go down to that disgusting catamaran little bathroom that had pee everywhere. And yeah, I ended up having to take a gravel and I just fell asleep on the boat. So you know what, I will say though, I did wake up towards the end where I could watch the sunset and sing a couple songs. But for the most part, yeah, very, very humbling day right there. Number 7. This one's just kind of funny. I got humbled in Berlin, Germany, when I was there on my first backpacking trip. So Berlin nightclubs can be very, like, what's the word? Exclusive, you know? Like, you gotta look cool to go in them sometimes. And so we were trying to go into this one techno club, and yeah, we got rejected. Like, we got to the door and she was like, no. And we had to leave. I will say that the next day we went, and I went with 2 girls this time, and we got in just fine. But they did ask us questions like, oh, have you been here before? Like, what DJ are you here to see, kind of thing. We already researched those, and we already had those answers, so we answered them like we were supposed to be there. Like, we knew what we were doing, and it actually turned out to be a really fun night. I had a great time in there, but getting rejected from Berlin clubs, I think it's a universal experience. If you go to Berlin, you're gonna probably get rejected from something. But yeah, it was humbling to just walk past the entire line because they all know that you didn't get in. Number 8. This has actually happened to me the other day. This was my 20-hour bus in Vietnam. So Southeast Asia is known for the really long travel days that just really, like, you're on these buses for hours, okay? The good thing though is that they have beds, so it's like a sleeper bus. So I got a bus from Hoi An to Ho Chi Minh City, and it was literally like 18 hours. I ran out of data partway on the bus, so I had to put my home SIM card in and spend that money to get, you know, the extra data. But I was only 7 hours into this bus, so I was like, I need data, I can't do this. They were playing really loud music. Also, I was the only foreigner on this bus, and when we stopped at the rest stops, again, I was the only traveler, okay? And so it was just an interesting experience, because at one point they were handing out food, but they only handed it to like the tables of Vietnamese people. They didn't give any to me, so I was also very starving on this bus. I had snacks, but they were not hitting. And yeah, I arrived to Ho Chi Minh. I got to my hostel at like 6 a.m. Slept for a couple hours, and then went about my day. But those really long sleeper buses are humbling, because you're just laying there and you're just like, well, what to do now? But honestly, I don't mind them too much though, because it does give you time to just kind of like chill and plan some stuff if you want. So yeah, but 20 hours is a little bit much. Number 9, okay. The prices in Switzerland. So Switzerland is very expensive, especially because their currency, you know, the Canadian dollar is shit, okay? The Canadian dollar is really not worth a lot compared to other ones. And I'm pretty sure it is literally like 50 cents to 1 Swiss franc. So everything I buy, if I buy something that's 10 Swiss francs, that's actually 20 Canadian dollars. So you can imagine how expensive that makes this country for us Canadians and just people in general. But yeah, so I saw those prices. I said, nah, I'm cooking my own meals. Like, I did not go out to eat once. I cooked my own meals. I bought pasta and sauce from the convenience store, and I made it. And I made enough to last me for lunch and dinner for the next like 2 days. And that's what I ate. And that's the thing about budget backpacking. I'm not about to go blow all my money on a fancy dinner, okay? Especially not in Switzerland. So yeah, definitely a bit humbling there. And finally, you guys, number 10 for times getting humbled while traveling, and that was getting robbed in Costa Rica. So this actually, none of my stuff got taken except for my flip-flops. But I'll tell you the story really quick. So me and 4 people that I met from the hostel that I was staying at, we were like, let's go to the hot springs, but let's go at night so it's more vibes. So we go, and we were the only travelers that were there. The rest of the people were locals. And we probably should have been smarter about this, but we just put all of our stuff by a tree. Like, there's no lockers there, and it's dark, so we were just kind of hoping for the best. Well, when we got out of the hot springs, we realized that one of the backpacks had been stolen. And that meant that this one guy's passport, wallet, phone, everything was gone. Thank God for me, I had a guardian angel that day. My bag was not taken. It was under some other stuff, so you wouldn't have really seen it. But the whole thing was humbling because it makes you realize how easy it is to just get your stuff taken in other countries. And it really is a reminder to be like, okay, I can't be getting too complacent here. Like, humble yourself, okay? Remember where you are. Remember that you were, actually, I've been robbed at home as well. So, like, I got my purse taken from a beach at home. But still, when you're traveling, you gotta be careful, right? So that really sucked for this guy. But yeah. Also, all of our shoes got stolen. For me, that was just a pair of flip-flops, and, don't really care too much about that, but still. Also, we had no towels. So we were just standing there on the side of the road, and it was pouring rain. So we're just like sitting there waiting to try and like get a taxi. We couldn't get a taxi for a while. It was really confusing. And we're just standing there eating sweets like with nothing. So yeah, it was definitely a humbling experience and a reminder to be careful. Definitely very humbling for the guy who got all of his stuff taken. But yes, you guys, there you go. Those are sometimes that I've been humbled while traveling, because yeah, it's not all butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes wacky things happen, sometimes sometimes things just go wrong, okay? But that is all part of it, and that is part of the story when you're traveling, okay? So when things go wrong, try and keep a good spirit about it, it'll be a funny story later. Right now it might be fucking shit, but for now, in the future, it'll be okay. So you guys, I definitely have more stories that I could probably tell you, and that's kind of what I'm gonna do on this channel, whatever I feel like, honestly. So yes, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.